I'm Ricc Rollins, and this is Going Places. Don't you want to come along? It's this way. Let's go. Hello and welcome to this edition of Going Places. Happy Father's Day, first of all. I hope your morning's amazing. Here's what's coming up on today's show. RJ Stevenson joins us to talk about the third annual Rock the Block Juneteenth celebration happening at Raymond James Stadium. The Pet Vet, Dr. Nabuki's back, and we're talking about your pets and keeping them safe during the summer. Karima Henry takes us inside the Travails and Triumph exhibit at the Tampa History Center. And class is in session as we continue Adulting 101 with Transitions Coach and first daughter to the show, Jessica Ryan Rollins, in part 2 of this insightful part of our transition summer. All of this and more, starting, you guessed it, right now. This weekend is Juneteenth weekend. It is official, and folks are celebrating all over the country. So why should Tampa be any different? It's the third annual Rock the Block Juneteenth celebration happening at the Raymond James Stadium. And who better to talk to than the man himself, RJ Stevenson. Welcome, RJ. So glad you're with us.
Rick, man, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the opportunity to share about this amazing opportunity for our community to come together and celebrate freedom. It's Juneteenth. It is the national holiday is celebrated on June 19th, but because we give deference to Father's Day, we celebrate on the Saturday before, which is June the 17th. We're going to be from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. over at Raymond James Stadium, and I'm excited about it.
Okay, so what can the people expect this year?
Man, this year you can expect bigger, better. Last year was our second year, and we took a full lot outside the stadium. This year, we've expanded to 2 lots.
Oh, wow.
Last year, we had 4 musical artists. This year, we have 10 musical artists.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Last year, we had 1 video game truck for kids. We got 2 video game trucks for kids, and all of the kids' exhibits, the petting zoo, the video game trucks, the bouncy houses, the obstacle courses, the face painting, it's all free. This is year number 3, and we're doing it bigger and better.
Yeah, for the people in the back one more time. What's the admission?
It is no. The admission is $35 for adults.
Okay.
So what we do, admission is $35 for adults. If you want to be a VIP, that experience is something completely different that we can talk about. But for children, we have this Kids Rocks ticket because we have a very strong love for community kids. It's called a Kids Rock ticket, and those kids can get in free with a paid adult. So an adult pays, the kid gets in free, and all of the kids' exhibits are free for the entire day.
Okay, let me ask this for the lady that got 6 children. Okay, if she pays, all 6 kids are free?
If she pays, 1 kid is free. What she needs to do is get her other 5 friends to come with her and sign those kids up for with the rest of the adults.
Okay.
It's really our way of making certain that situations just like that are palatable. You know, we know all too well, especially this starting during COVID, that it was a situation where income was down, families didn't have the same amount of resources. So we wanted to find a way to not let the parents drop the kids off, but to make it a family-friendly event so that the parents are there, the kids are there. And then when you go home, you can talk about what you learned about Juneteenth. You can talk about how family-friendly the environment was. But we want mamas, daddies, grandmamas, grandpapas, cousins, aunts, and kids all there together in one space. And knowing that Tampa Bay is a family-oriented place, this year our theme is family reunion. So it's something for the entire family.
Well, that sounds like it's going to be an exciting time. So, okay, so you said you got petting zoos, you got video arcades. What can the parents expect? We talked about musical artists. Let's talk about who's performing.
Who's performing? Okay, so first of all, we always make sure we present the Tampa Bay community. A lot of people wanted to hear last year if y'all had a national headline artist, it would just take it to another level. Well, we believe that the Tampa Bay community has artists that deserve to be in national headline spotlight, just like everybody else. Yeah. So this year we have 3 headliners. Beginning at 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., you'll hear Shawnee Rocks,
Oh,
you'll hear Omari Dillard, and you'll hear
okay.
Ethan Mitchell.
See, both of them have been, well, the two out of the three have been on the show. So, I'm excited to hear that. Omari's amazing, and so is Nate. Nate and I are working on a project together right now. Ain't talked about it yet, but we're working on a project. No, I'm not going to sing. Okay. But that's amazing. So this, as you said, is a family fun environment. What else can they expect?
Man, you can expect 30 food vendors. I'm talking about
you must
30
have combined, because I saw some collard greens in the future. Okay.
Man, we got 30 food vendors this year. We got about 10 food trucks.
Wow.
About 5 beverage vendors. We got 3 frozen treats vendors. We got 6 dessert vendors. And so, we're doing this in a way that allows people to lean towards their strengths. Trying to be a soul food vendor and trying to make sure you got something to drink and all that kind of stuff. No, we want you to focus on the neck bones and what you're good at. Bring the collard greens, the neck bones, and the oxtails, and that's what you do.
Yeah.
So it allows our vendors to just be authentically who they are without trying to be Walmart all at once. It cultivates a space where you see the community. When I say family reunion, I sort of thought of it from the beginning, from the perspective of everybody pulling up with their trunks and you bring what you good at cooking. That's sort of what we're doing with our food vendors. So we have people who are doing Caribbean juices. We have companies that are coming that only specialize in brewing tea. So it's a situation where you get to see vendors from our community do what they're very good at, and then exposing them to people that possibly have never heard of them before. And after you leave, we do something with our vendors called Vendors Rocks that teaches the vendors how to be successful after the day. So how do you make this person who walked by your booth a follow-up? How do you reach out to them to let them know that other pop-ups around the town that you're going to be invited to? How do you make sure you have insurance just in case you have some unforeseen circumstances happen? How do you make sure as a vendor and a business person that you're covered? So it's not just an event for that day, but this is something that lasts a lifetime for his experience.
That is amazing. And see, I don't think people think that way, because most people, they want the vendor's coin and then they send them on their way. That's amazing. Kudos to that. So in the last minute that we have, what do you want folks to know about this event that we didn't cover, but that you think is important for them to know?
This is the only event sponsored by a Black or brown company the entire year, held at Raymond James Stadium. When we first did it, everybody wanted to know why we didn't go to a community park, why we didn't go to the places where the Black folks go to. We wanted to go to the place of champions. The Buccaneers had just won the Super Bowl, and so we wanted the Black community to be in the space of champions. There are young kids who will never see the inside of that stadium unless we do something over there worth them coming to, and that's what we do for the Tampa Bay Area Juneteenth Festival every year right there at Raymond James Stadium.
Well, luckily the show airs at 8:00 this morning, and so you have time to get there today. Here is the QR code. RJ, much success today, and thank you for taking time for being with us on Going Places.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share.
More Going Places right after this.
The thing that drives me every day as a dad is him. Every day he's hungry for something. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is you don't need to know all the answers. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as it's coming from love, then it kind of starts to work itself out.
Welcome back to this edition of Going Places. Of course, we're here at Royal Pets, and you know this man. He's our pet vet, Dr. Nabuki.
Hey.
And we have our special guest with us today. Who is it, Dr. Nabuki?
Yeah, this is Zoe. We're a 3-year-old cockapoo.
And we want to talk today about fleas.
Fleas and ticks. Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about it, Doc. So we all know that fleas and ticks are the arch enemies of any pet. So how do we then begin to determine, first of all, if I think scratching is an obvious, but how do we know that the animal has fleas or ticks?
So it helps if they're a lighter coat color, because then you can usually see the fleas because they're pretty dark, so you may see them running around. The ticks are a lot harder to find because they like wet, dark places.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
usually the ears or the armpits or around the butt, that's where you're usually going to find the ticks on the dogs. But yeah, number one symptom really is usually scratching and itching that you're going to notice the fleas.
Okay, and so then once we notice that, what do we need to do?
So you need to call your vet and talk to them because we want to make sure to get rid of those as quickly as possible. So prevention is key. They say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So that is definitely important. And we have preventions for fleas and ticks.
Okay.
So that's number one, getting them on a good prevention so we cut off their blood supply. And then second is actually taking care of the environment. So whether that's another animal in the house, making sure they're on prevention, or cleaning the beddings, cleaning the house, vacuuming up any eggs or things like that in the in the carpet, and having the bug man come and spray to help kill those. Yeah.
Okay. So, but there are home hacks that people can use in between. I think borax was one that I read about.
There are a couple things you can do. What I would say is, talk with your veterinarian and actually, go to a pet store such as Royal Pets, because we have a lot of products that you can safely use around the pets and actually put into the carpet and stuff where it won't hurt the carpet and it won't hurt your pet. So, but yeah, we have a lot of stuff that can actually capture and get those things. And then usually you're following up with a vacuuming that'll suck it all up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are the dangers? And, some people say, well, of course they're going to get some fleas. Let's talk about the dangers that come with them coming in contact with the fleas or the ticks.
So the dangers, they're really going to be for both. They're blood-sucking parasites. So they're going to suck out a lot of blood, make you very anemic. So we don't want that. Secondarily, for ticks, they can actually pass on a lot of blood-related diseases. Really? And so, yeah, a lot of bloodborne pathogens. So you want to get them taken care of and off the pet as quickly as possible so you minimize that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, flea collars.
So I tend to say up north where there's less of a flea issue, flea collars tend to work pretty good because you've got a less population to work on, okay? However, down here in the south where it's a lot warmer and the fleas really don't die off from winter and stuff like that, you've got to use a lot stronger prevention. So I would say down here, the flea collars and the tick collars really don't work too well.
So if we're looking, would you say as a vet, which is your preference, internal or external?
So I like internal. So giving them, a prevention every month, or depending on whatever you use, sometimes every 3 months, that can actually help protect them, for me, a little bit better than the collar. And again, if you've got the collar on, some of the dogs will take it off, they'll scratch it off, they'll chew it. But with the edible, they eat that and then it's done, that it's in their system. So.
Okay. Final word to those who have felines.
Flea and tick prevention is super, super important, so make sure that your pet's on it so you don't have to deal with it.
For more information about Royal Pets and any service that you need, because I know you probably heard the noise in the background, that's the grooming center that we're near.
Yep.
So grooming is important.
And
information about Royal Pets. Here comes the QR code. And Dr. Nabuki, as always, we'll see you next week.
See ya.
More Going Places right after this.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back to this edition of Going Places. On last week, we began a conversation that I thought was so important, and Jessica agreed with me that we needed to continue this week so that parents and students would understand what Adulting 101 was going to look like as your child transitioned from high school to college, as your child left and returned as a young adult. So, Jessica, let's pick up where we left. Do you want to review real quick what we started with, real quick for the people?
So the biggest thing is, as they're transitioning to college, especially utilizing the summer to make sure that the family has a game plan on what the new norm looks like. So first,
dynamics changing.
Right, dynamics changing. So we're attending new student orientation, and hopefully you can do that as a family, because typically colleges will have the family side, you wave bye-bye, and then the students go off with the student. So that's that first shift of welcome to reality. So attending that new student orientation to feel good about going back and having a smoother transition once classes start in the fall, or, you know, depending on what semester that they start. Then we also talked about Adulting 101. Like, this whole transition is about that, of making sure that they feel confident and that they have clarity in the world of being a new adult, and having those life skills of budgeting, cleaning, cooking, just those basics, and, you know, getting prepared that mom and dad won't be there to clean up after them or to get on them about, you know, cleaning up their room. Mm-hmm. And then we talked, and I think this is a big part of the conversation, is with this new norm of setting new expectations and also preparing for the new dynamic of that there's a shift, right? They're going to be more independent, and where your role as their parent plays. It's, you're an advocate now, you're more of a coach, but they're making their decisions as someone who works. Someone who worked in higher ed. Like, I look at them as an adult, and unless they sign a waiver saying I can talk to their parent, whatever they do, whatever they decide, it's their decision. And so how do you navigate that conversation and that dynamic shift once they leave?
That's important. And I think that, again, parents, I can't say this enough, they're not going to come back the same way. They're just really not. I mean, they have sensed, or they have tasted independence, and it is like, I like it, I'm living it, and you're gonna have to learn how to live with it.
Right.
And, so be ready for it. They're gonna come back, and they will respect your house. If you raise them right, they will respect your house. But they're gonna be looking at you like, when you're talking about, well, the curfew is still 11 o'clock. No, it's not.
Right. For some of them, 11 o'clock, we're just getting ready to go out, right? So I remember that day, you know, those days at Florida State, we had a club called the library. So thinking back about those,
where you going? I'm going to the library. Oh my!
At midnight, right? And so it's going to be a little bit different. So it's really making sure that we're keeping the communication open, and we're aligning on what the new norm is and setting those expectations. And so with that, as we talk about the shift also looks like when they come home for summer break, or that next summer, right? So if you have a college student who is home right now, or thinking about those holidays, you've also gotten used to a quieter house as well. So it's on both sides, right? Of making sure, as that one that supported that new college student, that you feel good about when they come back, and communication is key, and that we know that the shift is going to happen. So just be open to it, and have those conversations. Either, hopefully you've already had them prior to them coming home, but if they're currently home, just discuss, what is your game plan for this summer, right? We talked about it for our high schoolers. It doesn't change of if they're coming home again. What does that summer, what will that look like for them, and how can you support them through that? So let's talk about, is there a curfew? Is there, hey, mom, dad, like, am I on my own for dinner? Like, things are, their hours, their sleeping hours will change. The habits that they once had, that you might have had a little bit more say so, those things will look different. So you want to talk about what their role is in keeping the house up this summer. All of those things you want to talk about of summer plans. Either it's taking classes, or it's having the honey-do list. Like, you still got some chores while you're here. So those things don't go away just because they're back home, but they are going to be a little different, and you want to communicate that.
That is really true. I mean, because you are setting yourself up for failure and disappointment, sometimes even heartbreak, if you think that that just because they're coming home, because they may just tell you, well, I'll tell you what, I won't come. And that's another point. What happens when they decide not to come home for the summer or not to come home for the holidays?
And that happens, right? I think about, I came home my first summer and I said, this was nice, but I miss the independence, the freedom that I could get up and go wherever I want. So
they're not putting up with new.
Right. So, but I still have to have a plan.
Yes, and that's the big thing, and that's why we're sharing this with you. We're not trying to scare you. We're trying to prepare you. I like that. We're not trying to scare you. We're trying to prepare you.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And
put it on a t-shirt.
Right. And I think that is the biggest thing, that we want to make sure that even if they decide to come home just for a couple of weeks, or they decide to stay at that university, for some of them, if they have an apartment, right? So
you can't
take it personal. And
they
so
still love you. They just like being grown.
Right.
That's
and if they're doing it well, absolutely. So, and for some of them, they're going to do it well. They're going to thrive on that independence. They're going to listen to the advice of, don't do anything crazy, fill in the blank, that will make you have to come home for good, right? So
that has to be the mantra the entire time. Don't do anything that's going to make you come home the first semester. I had a friend of mine, you know who I'm talking about, your good uncle, that had to, they said bye. The first semester at FSU, because he parted himself away and ended up having to leave, luckily, and that was a wake-up call, and he ended up going to another 4-year institution and did a dual degree, because he was really serious about this thing. But you just have to understand, to him, what much is given, much is required. And that's the one thing that happens with these. Just because you're free now don't mean you're free to be foolish. Yeah.
And with that, it's having that conversation about when they are coming home this summer, and really during their breaks, sitting down, what is going well?
Check in.
What is not going so well? How can I support you? What do you need? Because it sometimes baffles me a little bit, but when I'm working with families, and sometimes I work with families that have students in college, and they had no clue what was going on until those grades came in, and they realized that someone was on probation, right? They had no clue, because everything was fine during each family check-in. So you want to make sure that you're having the conversation about how your class is going. What are grades looking like? How's your roommate? Tell me about that dynamic, right? Get a little bit of information. Are you dating, right? So little things like that helps you to, when we talk about the dynamic, the shift is communicating. You're probably going to communicate differently, but a lot more, so that you don't want to get it's fine, everything's great. No, tell me about your classes. What are those grades looking like? Let's pull them up. So you want to really dig a little deeper, so that you're not surprised that in case they have to come home, like it wasn't a shock to you, but you all have discussed it.
Okay. I think that hopefully y'all got this. Like I said, I just thought it was important that we carry this conversation over. So what are we going to talk about next week, Jessica Ryan Rollins?
So next week, we'll continue just having the conversation about when that student is home. What are some things that, no matter what age that they're at, is what can they be doing to make sure that they're having that successful summer, and how you can support that conversation and that exploration as well.
Okay, so I hope you'll be back with us as we continue our transition summer here with Jessica Ryan Rollins. More Going Places right after this.
Each year, hurricanes and major flooding threaten cities, towns, and rural homes across the Gulf states. So chances are there will be more storms and floods near here again. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has all the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
that drives me every day as a dad is him. Every day he's hungry for something. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is you don't need to know all the answers. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as it's coming from love, then it kind of starts to work itself out.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years, and I got my third child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Three, two, one. Well, we're almost out of time. Once again, happy Father's Day, happy Juneteenth. We'll see you next week. Be blessed on the journey as we continue to introduce you to more interesting people doing interesting things in interesting places on the next Going Places. Until then, take care.